All right, Nico, can you say, welcome to another episode of Healthy Births, Happy Babies?
It's a happy episode. Happy babies.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Healthy Births, Happy Babies. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Jay Warren. And as you know with this podcast, it's all about information about healthy pregnancy, natural childbirth, excellent postpartum recovery care, as well as infant care, baby care, and early childhood development. And today's episode is all about the kiddos. And I am super excited for today's guest, not to undermine the excitement I feel for all of the guests that have come on, but today I'm having a conversation with Mike Dooley. Mike Dooley is somebody that I have followed his work for over a decade. I first found out about him in the movie The Secret when it first came out in 2006, and I've been reading his books, and I've gone to a few of his seminars and listened to his audio programs ever since. And I also get his daily emails. He writes notes from the universe that I get 5 times a week, and I've got them for over a decade, and I read them every morning, literally. I mean, there's been stretches where I haven't, but they're little inspirational quotes or messages that are all about magic and dreaming big. And he's also writing children's books now, and that's what he's here to talk about. So with all of the books that are more on the kind of positive thought movement, personal development, he's putting those messages now into a couple of children's books that I bought immediately as soon as I found out he had started to write them. And the very first book I ever bought Nico was Mike Dooley's Dreams Come True. It came out the same month that Nico was born, and a couple years later, another book, Your Magical Life, came out, and I have that one as well. And I wanted to bring Mike on to talk about, early childhood development and reading to your kids, the importance of these messages, but also because he's a new parent as well, about how to, in the day-to-day, have those kind of qualities and intentions show up rather than getting stuck in, I can't get my kid to brush his teeth or get her to get in the car seat or all the other errands and the minutia of things we get caught up on a day-to-day basis. So it's my absolute pleasure to have him on the podcast today. I'm going to be introducing him in a second, but first I wanted to tell you I do have another podcast that is now launched. It's called the Dadhood Journey, and it's all about supporting dads. So as you know, with this podcast, over 120 episodes, it's all been mainly about pregnancy and postpartum and moms and babies. There's been a few episodes for dads, but now I have another podcast that, while it isn't about pregnancy and postpartum and, how to change diaper, it's more about being a dad, sharing little messages, wisdom that I've come across, either learned myself and want to share, or that I've come across in my practice, in my interviews, that can help dads be really engaged with their kids, be really just strong and happy dads, as well as partners and men. And we can do that for our families to have them really strong. So I just want to let you know that it's in iTunes, Google Play Music, all the places you listen to the podcast. It's called The Dadhood Journey. You can pass that on to your husband or to your mate. If you're listening yourself, or if you're a dad, go on and check that out as well. So let me now introduce Mike and give you some background on who he is before I switch over to my conversation with him. So Mike Dooley is a New York Times best-selling author, metaphysical teacher, and the creator of the wildly popular Notes from the Universe. His acclaimed books, Life on Earth, Leveraging the Universe, Infinite Possibilities, Playing the Matrix, among others, have been published worldwide in over 25 languages, and his children's books are now available, Dreams May Come True and Your Magical Life. He was one of the featured teachers in the international phenomenon The Secret, and is founder of the Philosophical Adventurous Club that is now home to over 750,000 online members. Mike lives what he teaches, inspiring audiences the world over, so far in 132 cities, 34 countries, and on 6 continents. So with no further ado, let me switch on over to my conversation with Mike Dooley. All right, Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jay.
It's been, I mean, it's taken a little while for us to connect, and I'm really happy you're taking time out of your busy schedule to do this. And I've been listening to you, reading your books, getting your emails for years. So it's really a pleasure to have you come on and talk about your children's books. I have to say, it was the very first book I bought my son when he was born.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. I have a 4.5-year-old son. He was born in October 2013, which I think is when it was released. The first one, Dreams May Come True.
Yeah. So you're a new dad. Oh,
I am
gosh.
a new dad, as well as you, right?
And I am as well. I have a 4-year-old daughter, just a couple months younger than your son. And wow, what an adventure.
Yes.
Wow.
It changes day by day, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it gets better day by day. Long days sometimes, but nothing could beat it. And, as you know, and as I look back at the transition from, newborn to 4-year-old, now talking and dancing and telling stories, it's just like, nothing can really impress you regarding the miracle of life more than just seeing it bloom in front of your very eyes. It's like, oh, so fun.
Right. I've found every stage with my son just to get better and better. I mean, they all have their own challenges, right? They bring their own, but
sleep deprivation and
yes, like
temper tantrums here and there. We had a few of those and blew our mind. Like,
yes,
my little flower. I can't believe she's wants to scratch my eyes out.
Right. And like, how am I ever going to get my kid in the car seat? Like, it's just
it's
never going to happen. We're stuck here forever.
Yeah.
But seeing, as you said, just that miracle unfold and the creativity and the dots connecting and understanding like what an impression we make upon our kids is humbling. And so, going back to like your body of work, I mean, I first started following you like when The Secret came out way back when in 2006. That's the first time I started reading your notes from the universe, and I've been reading those daily for that whole time.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, and all of your other books have been really just amazing, like with infinite possibilities and leveraging the universe, and now Playing the Matrix. I think that's one of your best books, if I do say so myself. A great culmination of everything you've been teaching.
Oh, thank you.
And now you're putting into the kids' works. I mean, how did that come about? Was it parenthood that inspired it, or?
Wow, gosh. In hindsight now, I see it as a very unpredictable, serendipitous path that really no logical brain could chart ahead of time. And I teach, as you know, like in my, primary program, Playing the Matrix, course on living deliberately and creating consciously, that we just should never be a micromanager of our futures, because we just can't see what's around the corner, whereas our higher self, or call it God or call it the universe, sees everything. So if you say, you want a creative, fulfilling career, the universe is like, I know you, I know what you're good at, I know what you're going to fall in love with, I know who's going to fall in love with you, and here's an incredible path. Whereas if we had every time we attach or insist on anything in life, we close all the other doors. So keep a broad kind of scope in your vision for your life, and then show up knocking on different doors, turning over every stone, and thereby divine intelligence can reach us with the quickest, shortest way. And the way it reached me, my gosh, with a degree in accounting to start out with, worked at Price Waterhouse for 6 years, then sold T-shirts with my brother and mother for 10 years. I simply wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't care what I was selling. And so we ended up selling souvenir T-shirts with my brother's art. And then, lo and behold, with my writings. And I was an accountant. I didn't have writings. But the more clever the T-shirt slogan, the more T-shirts we'd sell and the more money we'd make and the more fun we'd have, because it was just very fulfilling to deliver something, invent something that people were so charmed by. Because our T-shirts had messages about dreams coming true, believing in yourself, picture in your mind, and things like that. Well, that already is something I never could have dreamed of, nor been availed of if I had insisted early on, I will do this, I will do that. Then when the trends were declining, I was kind of desperate to resurrect my life, my fortunes. I was almost 40 years old, and I was starting over and didn't know what I was going to do. I circulated my accountant's resume. I looked at franchises. I had no idea what to do next. But the one thing that I did have, which didn't seem like anything, I felt like I had nothing. I still had a database of people who were receiving the T-shirt deal of the week. And the T-shirts had inspirational sayings on them. There was no more T-shirts because we had liquidated our business. Otherwise, we would have gone down. So, I'm trying to fumble around and start my life over again. And I thought, I can keep sending people weekly emails. I think I had 3,000 addresses at the time, people who had visited our retail stores. And instead of selling a T-shirt, just for the heck of it, just share motivation, inspiration based on these new thought worldviews of us being God particles, capable of living the life of our dreams. And so I did that and made no money, but the list grew popular. And so I started speaking. I mean, I'm like the accidental teacher, motivator, philosopher, because I didn't plan on doing that. I just wanted to have a great life, period. Very selfishly, I just wanted to have a great life. But the more you are of service and the more you are giving folks what they want, and we all want some degree of inspiration from one source or another, as long as your brand resonates with enough people, the more in demand you'll be, the more money you'll make, the more fulfilled you'll feel, and on and on and on. So it kind of just turned into this upward spiral in spite of a very slow 2 years. I mean, first year I made no money. The second year I made little to no money. And then the third year I'm on a world tour. I've got self-published books, a fan base that was, in the tens of thousands. And, Bob's your uncle, as they say in England. Everything took care of itself. And, of course, along the way, I was speaking to audiences, and one of the most common questions I would get after people talked about fear of the unknown, fear of negative thoughts, and all that kind of stuff that goes with my message, or that is conjured up by my message of the importance of having positive outlook, I would be asked, when am I going to create something for kids? Again and again and again. And, that was my early 40s. And by then I still had not ever married, still had not ever had kids. And so it just really wasn't so much on my radar. Today I'm 57. I'm a late blooming first time dad. And it was probably towards the tail end of my 40s that just the demand was so great, I wanted to start thinking about it. So I started doodling and collecting my different writings that would be suitable for kids. And eventually, within years, because I couldn't get a publisher to publish it, even my own publishers, Simon & Schuster, at the time, wouldn't publish my kids' book. So
really?
it dragged on. And finally, I self-published it. Sorry, go ahead.
They didn't see a demand for it? They didn't want to publish going to kids' books?
From a business perspective, and every publisher will confirm this, it is very difficult to turn a profitable kids book. Now, of course, if you write The Giving Tree or Dr. Seuss or others, you will be a zillionaire. But there is no shortage of cute kid books out there with good messages. The truth is, not many go as esoteric as my second book or even my first book, which is very much about, the power of thoughts and dreams coming true. But still, there's a lot of cute books out there. And when you take into account book costs and the risks a publisher has to take with an advance, presumably, and market posture, if you're not famous, and I was certainly not famous, just known within my niche, then it's a roll of the dice. So there is a demand, but everybody keeps buying Dr. Seuss and other books printed in China for $7, and it's a very challenging business, coupled with the fact that the book industry has truly been pummeled since the advent of the internet and ebooks and all the stores that are gone now that sold books back in the day evidence this. So that's why it was kind of slow going for me. I'm happy to say, you might recall all the celebrations from my website back when my first kids book, and I only have 2 even now, came out. It was a huge success amongst my own community, really. I mean, I printed 5,000 and they were gone in like 2 days. And then I ordered 10,000, but these were also coming from the Orient, and I had to wait 3 months before they arrived. And then I printed 5,000 more stopgap in the middle from a U.S. publisher, and I mean, they were all gone as soon as they landed, which is pretty unusual for a kid's book. But the message is right. I had the platform, and those who know what I would say you and I know and your listeners know about the importance of thought and the importance of understanding our power, the importance of understanding our responsibilities in a spiritual way, can't be imparted at too young an age. Right. So now here we are. There's 2 more books out there, and I continue to work on other things. And I've got some other kids' books, in the wings.
Oh, good.
With all else that I'm doing. So, yeah, it's exciting. I think the truth is emerging the world over. So I think these kind of books and this market that I cater to is growing, and demand is increasing all the time.
Right, because, I mean, as new parents, like, we all hear the benefits of reading to your kids, right? Like, those kids that are read to as a child become readers later on, and there's all that, language development and concentration, and, they want to learn, thirst for knowledge. But 2 things I've noticed as a parent beyond all of that, and that's not really why I read to Nico every night, but it's more of bonding time. It's a really special time for parents to sit down with their kids. And then you can't help but notice, especially because you're reading the same books over and over and over again, that you want good messages to go to them, right? And most kids' books are, but sometimes it's a little more tangible about how to deal with this problem and that. But the big picture, the big message that you've had in all of your adult books that has made me such a fan of yours, are now in pages that I'm reading to my son that are going into his brain and imprinting, and it's something that I think all parents want the best messages for their kids. And then, as you said, more and more so, parents are wanting to have those bigger picture on that spiritual plane, and the just empowerment, as well as just believing in your kid that life is magical rather than a drudgery. And we see that in our kids as a parent, we can get caught in the day to day, and then you have a kid and everything's new and magical and fun, and it makes it that way for us too. So it's kind of it can rejuvenate a parent to get back on it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm the one who gets to read every night to my daughter, and incredible bonding time, play time, open mind time, and again, like your son, I'm sure. Read it again, yes. After 5 readings of the same book in one night. But the message is there, and it's being repeated, and that is priceless.
Right. We had mentioned before we got started with the interview, I've had Dr. Bruce Lipton on the podcast before talking about early childhood development and how important the messages are within the first 7 years of a kid's life, because their unconscious mind is wide open and just receiving without filter. And so that instills in us a responsibility to, make sure those messages going in are as good as possible. And I think more and more as we learn that kind of information, it's never going to be perfect, but we want to just fill their cups with these beautiful messages and have it. Again, your books are just gorgeous books. Your illustrator, man, is she amazing.
Virginia, thank you very much.
Yeah, they're just phenomenally beautiful books, just even regardless of what you've written in them, but they're just really, really special. And I think that's something that at least now that Nico's 4 years old, my personal experience is he's starting to ask questions about the messages that were in it. Whereas before, it's just beautiful pages, and he's like, oh, this is a sunflower, and just tearing the pages and like, don't tear the pages, But now he's asking, like, he actually, if you don't mind me, I was telling him that I was going to be talking with you today, the one who wrote this book, as I was leaving this morning. And I said, do you have any questions for him about it? And he said, how come those kids get to live in a balloon? Because they go on an adventure in the balloon and there's dolphins flying all around. And so he's engaged in a different way. And I think that's what all parents want.
Yeah, that's what we see. That's what I see with my daughter. I mean, the most innocent perspective and the most interesting observations. And sometimes it almost seems not that relevant to be talking about dreams coming true and how powerful we are and the possibilities that exist for us, because she's just happy with everything. I could read her any other book. But you said it, their minds, their souls are so open. The questions do come about a dream. And is this like a nighttime dream? Or do you know it's more like of what you want to happen in the future, and you think about it and you smile about it and you know that it's going to be provided to you. And she gets that like she gets everything else. And her ability to learn has, I have the great fortune of being married to a lady who grew up in Mexico. Naturally, first language for her is Spanish. And it is beyond supernatural how my daughter is fluent in Spanish. And it was like it went from like nothing to full fluency, probably just after reaching 3 years old. And my wife rarely speaks Spanish in the house unless she's mad.
Is that right?
And I'm like, please speak more. This is such a golden opportunity. But with a few visits to Mexico for a couple of weeks at a time, playing with a lot of other children, she is utterly fluent. I mean, she knows the word for, the strangest thing, rock or dirt or tongue or elbow. I mean, I've been trying to learn Spanish for 10 years now, and I don't have that. And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say supernatural, the kid's ability to learn and absorb at that age, even though we wonder if they get the deeper concept of what it means to dream. They're getting it, and they'll contextualize it and spit it back when it has more relevance in their immediate life. Now if she has a ball or wants to go swimming in the backyard or her tricycle, so many things thrill her. But when she gets more discerning, she's going to be at a place where these lessons that I'm sharing with her through my books and others will be the most impactful, most available, on the tip of her tongue, like common knowledge, just like her Spanish fluency is today. A fluency and a knowledge and a wisdom, if you will, that somehow we can't get as easily as we age. I don't want to argue for my limitations, right. But I'm not going to speak Spanish as quickly as a child, and no adult will. No. And I'm not going to pick up our power and infinite possibilities as quickly as our children, which is why these topics in reading are so important.
Right. And going back to, with bringing the magic back into our lives as a parent, because we get to see the world anew through our kids' eyes, I've noticed, and a lot of the parents that I work with a lot of kids in my practice, it's almost like they're not learning anything new in this message. I almost think of it as like they're just remembering or being allowed to remember that. Because so many of us adults, and maybe this is the drive that you were hearing from the attendees of your seminars and feedback from your books, is that, we go through life as a kid and then all of a sudden we got to be, quote, prepared for the real world. And a lot of that magic gets patterned out of us through homework and prepping for tests and getting into college and getting a job. And then we find ourselves not as fulfilled as we thought we were going to be if we got all those things. And then a lot of us find ways to work like yourselves and others to unwind that programming to get back into the magic of life. And parenthood can, I think, accelerate that and be like, hey, they're having a good time. I should have a good time too. But also parenthood's hard. and it's easy to get stuck in the like, all right, just get in the car seat. Let's get going. We got to get here and run these errands. But there is that element, I think, of at least the kids that I'm seeing here of they're just booted up that way. And the more we can do as parents to keep them that way, the better for our whole planet, really, because then they won't have to undo that.
Yeah, it's so much a function of just like not getting in their way, because they came here with all cylinders firing, inner senses, outer senses, and we want to accentuate the truth, and we want to just, let them continue growing in that way with an exposure to empowering messages.
Right. And I know, so you being immersed in this, kind of message for the latter part of your career when you started writing books and teaching, like how is it day to day as a parent holding that space when there are the tantrums and there are the sleepless nights, or if they're sick or everything? Like, what's your biggest challenge as a parent to kind of keep that space?
Great question, because boy, they can throw you off balance. You've got an appointment. She has no concept of it's time to leave now.
Right.
She has other priorities. I feel like it's a nonstop learning process. I feel like I am kind of the student, if you will. Not that she's teaching me, but I think in every challenging situation that I have with her, finishing her dinner or whatever else, I feel like I don't do it with words or with prayer, but I feel like there's kind of a weighing in my mind of the highest and best way to deal with this. I mean, when do you put down your foot? When do you pick her up physically and say, we have to go here? Mm-hmm. Because that's, that touches on, kind of maybe an unnecessary aggression. It's much better to get her to step into the car on her own than me to pick her up. So it's constantly like a dance with my higher self, or me checking in with feeling like, what will be the most productive? Mm-hmm. Is it worth it? Do I really have to get what I think I want out of this? A prompt bedtime by 8 p.m. Or should she really get up right now, or could she have another 15 minutes sleeping? So I'm constantly checking, and I think that's how I hold the space. I never enter into it or feel like I'm on a mission, or this is what I must accomplish, or this is where I draw the line. I mean, even if I drew a line one night, I wouldn't be like, okay, I'm always going to draw that line. Right. It's always this dance dependent upon circumstances, moods, perspectives, outlooks, exterior deadlines, and of course, there's always the mandate that I have on myself, never so consciously, it's second nature now, but to have a spiritual approach. It's like, does this make sense? Is there, is the answer none of the above? Is there something different I should be doing? And it's just constant, just, but natural. I think yes. Since I'm so, if I may say, conversant or fluent with this kind of thinking, I mean, I've been into New Thought, spiritual worldview since my late teenage years. My first and second year in college, my mom would send me these crazy books that really blew my mind wide open. And ever since I got them, it's been about, okay, how do I make my life rock with this information? And while that might sound selfish, I think in the beginning we have to be. My mom would also always say, charity begins at home, even in this regard. But my life rocking, particularly as you get older, even in your 30s, becomes dependent on happiness and joy in my immediate circle of family. And even in my friends, if my friends are miserable, but I'm living my dreams, I'm alone. I'm an island. It's not what anybody wants. Everybody wants to share this awesome, magical journey. And that sometimes means, slowing down for someone who's can't go as fast as you, metaphorically. It means putting someone else's needs in front of your own temporarily. That's a huge button for me because I was raised in kind of a church environment, and the advice was always to put the needs of others before your own. And I do not believe that is a wise choice in life. We didn't come here to live for other people. We came here to follow the beat of our own drummers, which will eventually bring us around to moving in concert with the needs of other people, but never negating our own desires, so to speak. So while I said that a moment ago, that I think there are certainly times in our adventure when we most want to put the needs of others before our own, I don't think that is a basis for living one's life, being selfless. No way. I like being Mike. I like taking care of Mike, and I'll do a better job taking care of my daughter and those I love when I've got my own foundation going on.
Right. And that is, I mean, it's such a big theme I see in especially new parenthood, the idea of self-care, because parenting, especially in that first year, in the first years or the whole time, like we devote so much of our time and energy, and it's all about the kids. It's all about the kids.
Right.
And at some point we all grow. I mean, resentful is a strong word, but there becomes that, like, what about me? That bubbles up, and sometimes it's stifled, and we go like, no, it's not about me, it's about the kids. But I firmly believe every kid needs the happiest dad, the happiest mom possible, and that might mean doing things for yourself. And again, like with the messaging of your books here, to like instill like power in the children and magic, like we need that as parents too, which might mean separate time. And to put our own needs first. But that can be really hard, especially for a new parent, where you kind of wear that as a badge of honor of how selfless you're being.
Right. You know, and it's kind of a cool place to be. I mean, you know, bringing children into the world is no small endeavor. And yeah, there's going to be a year or two and the rest of your life where their needs and desires are your needs and desires. And it's a massive, massive, massive change. But you know, I in one way, I am so blessed to be experiencing this at a time in my life where I'm not trying to squirrel away more nuts. I'm not trying to find out who I am. I'm not trying to find out where my life is going. It's like an incredible luxury to have done it in the sequence that I've done it. And so it is with glee that I am able to spend almost all of my free time with my daughter. It's exhausting, and I do need to come up for air. Yes. But all of that is part of the thought process of, you know, this that should be entertained before this adventure begins. And then you're totally right. There go all your old priorities.
Right.
But joyfully, for the most part, joyfully.
Right. And consciously, you know, there's that aspect of, okay, but in my life, like my priorities have definitely changed, and it's not because I'm doormatting to my family life or to my child. It's more of like, well, my priorities have changed, and I want that for me as well. And that serves the child, obviously, but what serves them in a higher sense, I truly believe, is, you know, a filled dad and a filled mom to come from a full place, rather than constantly to being depleted by not taking care of yourself and doing your own thing. Yeah.
I think that's a topic for a book in itself, because it's so easy to overlook, and our old school society is too often ready to point fingers and say, you're selfish. And it's like, it's survival at times, you know, having that time out, that breather. And for me, thankfully, a second parent, my wife, that can, you know, take the baton, and I can do that for her.
Right. Now, you just mentioned the influence your mom had, and I heard an interview you gave a few years ago about all the gifts that your mom gave you being her parent. And I wanted to ask you what what qualities, what things that she did that you're consciously doing with your daughter that you're wanting to bring in that was so helpful for you, or you revere or loved about what your mom did with you that you want to continue on?
Yeah. Well, I would say, with a daughter that's only 4 years old, I don't have the latitude that I will have when she's a little bit older. But one thing my mom gave to me, if you will, that was relevant from my first breath, was she was always there. And it was a luxury that not everybody has, because she was a stay-at-home parent. And kids don't have to have two, even one stay-at-home parent. There's so many great possibilities with preschools and extended family that can fill the gap. But that was something that she gave to me, and we had a phenomenally close relationship until she passed away at 82 a few years ago. Talked every single day on the phone, virtually my entire adult life, and I always feel fortunate that she was just always there, because I always knew I was important to somebody. I always knew that somebody cared. And that for me made a difference. I wouldn't change it. The other thing my mom did, but when I was older, that I want to emulate and do with my daughter is, I kind of feel like she gave me license always to dream big. I always felt like, if you want it and you work hard enough at it, you can do it. There was just absolutely nothing that she ever would scoff at or be like, get reasonable, or Mike, you have to be realistic. It's like, whatever. And it wasn't that she sat me down and said, listen, dreams come true, dream big. She probably never even said that her whole life, but it was just her own innate modus operandi. And that's why, I tell audiences when they ask, what can we do for our kids? It's just be a good model. Don't lament and complain and whine, demonstrating a sense of powerlessness to the world, because your kids will pick that up and feel powerless themselves. Be strong and walk the talk of these higher-minded teachings that certainly are not mine. They're universal. They're everywhere out there. She also instilled, I guess you could say, a work ethic. It was always about you're gonna have to make it happen, because no one's gonna bring it to you. Of course, she brought to my attention as a teenager, my first year in college, these books. So all of a sudden, while it is up to me and I do have to do it, and it all hinges on my perspective, I'm supernatural. I'm not alone. I'm guided. I have inner senses. So yeah, I've got to, as some would say, pray and move my feet. Someone's hearing me. And I don't mean to imply that there's a God that decides. I don't believe in that. I do believe, of course, in a divine intelligence, an almighty divine intelligence. I don't go to religion for that. I don't think spirituality necessarily needs religion. But when we make steps in the direction of our dreams, I do believe, because of our supernatural nature and our inclination to succeed, that every effort we make is exponentially ramped up and heightened in realms invisible. And so, yeah, you got to do all the work yourself, the physical work yourself, but your physical baby steps will unleash gigantic steps beyond the curtains of time and space, setting ourselves up for serendipities, so-called coincidences and accidents that will yield that which we were endeavoring to find. So she gave me that work ethic, but I was relieved to realize I'm supernatural through reading these books that we discovered virtually at the same time. She shared them immediately with me. And the third thing that I think she left with me is kind of a blend of all of that. But, we had a great friendship. And I know that that's not even on the radar for some parent-child relationships. We come here with baggage, so to speak, I believe, when a life begins. We're not virgin souls. I do not think that. And so, there's different challenges on the stage that may or may not flare up. And sometimes great parents, good people will have a situation with a child or several children where it's just, angst and tumult and chaos and anything seemingly but love. But with love and patience and being a model and not forcing stuff, we create the maximum opportunity for reconciliation, so that when these ideally phases are outgrown, an amazing bond will form. I didn't have really any flare-ups with my mom. I think a mother-son relationship can be pretty extraordinary that way. There's no competition, there's no comparisons, just like a father-daughter relationship can sometimes be quite spectacular. I mean, every relationship has spectacular attributes, and every relationship is different than all others. But for those reasons, I think I was able to have a really great kind of adult friendship and camaraderie, deep conversations with my mom, until she passed.
Right. And that was true the whole time, like throughout your childhood, or was that more as an adult you had that?
I remember having adult-ish, conversations probably in my early teenage years. And, you're handling concepts that are so new on a week-by-week, month-by-month, year-by-year basis. I don't necessarily mean learning about the birds and the bees or anything, but just, self-love, respect, dignity. Again, the notions of living your dreams, having dreams, dealing with negativity, dealing with difficult people. Those conversations started in probably my middle teenage years. But it wasn't just conversations about that either. She was genuinely interested in my interest and encouraging me to do what I wanted to do, and listening to me when I shared stories of joy or disappointment. And it was just, I was very fortunate that way.
Right. Well, and those qualities you just listed about self-respect and self-love and dreaming big are, I'm sure, all qualities that you want for your daughter as well. And do you have any specific experiences you want your daughter to have? Do you have, things, she definitely needs to travel here and see these different things? Or is it more in the general sense of enjoying life, however that shows up for her?
I have a lot of those things, but
good. I'm not the only one then, huh? Good.
Yeah, I temper all of them greatly, mightily with, let's see what appeals to her. Travel appeals to most people. It certainly lights me up. And I can't wait to travel the world with her. But if in the end she's just a homebody and just really doesn't give a damn, I think it would potentially create harm, be damaging if I'm disappointed that she won't go to Holland with me or South Africa with me, or and I see that a lot with peers, other parents. I've seen it as a kid growing up in parent-child relationships where there's this real expectation of behavior, of interests, of when they should get married, where are the grandchildren. Some people are never going to get married. Some people are never going to have kids. Some children will never have kids of their own. And that doesn't mean they won't have the most amazing, stellar, awesome, cool adventures in time and space. And so if a parent is hung up on do it this way and do it that way, and you're going to like it better if you, So all of my desires for my daughter, and there are many, are all tempered with, if she's up for it. Now, if she's, in my opinion, lazy, I will really try to spiritually entice her and coax her into opening her mind as necessary. But there are places I want her to go. I definitely want her to dream. But I know kids in my extended family even that they're just not ambitious. They're not. And if my daughter's not ambitious, I would never try to make her ambitious. It's like, there's so much that an unambitious person could learn at home, dealing with loved ones, with their own work, their own career, their own expression of life, that an ambitious person will never know, and vice versa. So I will always be tuning into what her real vibe is. But I would like her to dream if she's ambitious. I would like her to be vigilant in pursuing her dreams, rolling with setbacks. I would like her to have a work ethic. Sounds old-fashioned, but a real, true realization that she's the moving part that has to go first if anything is going to happen of a deliberate nature in crafting her future. And without her baby steps, the universe is just stuck in park. I want to kind of embolden her socially, and I do that now a lot, saying hello to anybody that we cross paths with. If we're walking through Disney World or through the grocery store and people are looking and nodding at her, I encourage her to be vocal. And she's just now getting at the point where she's like, I'm shy. I'm like, oh, come on. She uses that too much when she just doesn't want to engage, and she's not really shy. Sometimes it's just me and her, and I'm talking to her, and she doesn't want to, do something trivial, and she'll say, oh, I'm shy. So, we all have to see through the BS,
Yep.
our own,
Right.
and our kids and everyone else's.
Exactly. Well, those are amazing qualities and experiences that, as a parent, you're bringing into it. And so, in our last couple minutes, Mike, tell our listeners where they can, find your body of work, but then specifically the children's books, The Dreams Come True, and Your Magical Life. Well,
thanks for asking.
Yes.
My kind of home base on the internet is tut.com, tut.com, like the king, but no Egyptian influence, tut.com. And from there, people can get my free notes from the universe. They can find out where I'm speaking or touring next. They can take a gander at the 15 books or video courses, etc. I have links to all of the books for easy purchase at Amazon.com. Some of the other stuff is available through my publisher, but I link there. And we have a lot there at the website, and that's how people can find the kids' books as well. Dreams Come True is number one, the first one, and Your Magical Life is the second one.
Very good. And in wrapping up, what's the major take-home message you'd like a parent listening to this to leave our conversation with? Either something that we've talked about and you want to reiterate, or maybe something new that didn't come up.
Maybe to be concise, which I always strive to be, not always successful, but have fun, just period. Have fun, and you're going to have fun by not attaching, not assisting, not demanding, not having a preconceived idea of what your kid should be. You're going to have fun in the short term when you play and dance and color and do the things at home. And fun also takes into account long term. If you want fun to be on the agenda 2 years and 20 years from now, that means there's seeds that need to be planted, concepts that need to be instilled, disciplines that should be honed, whether it's, being diligent, whether it's not giving up, whether it's making the best of a situation. And so having fun doesn't just mean play nonstop. It means create a foundation for the rest and the best of their lives, beginning with, the present moment and all else, in a way that you can both, you and your child, for the most part, be smiling about, through the lessons, through the talks, through the fun and games. Have fun, because I think that's why we're here.
Right. Wise words. What about a message for the little kids that might be listening? We have a lot of pregnant moms listening, maybe babies in utero still listening in, or they're on mommy's chest, or they're in the back of the car. What's something that you'd like to whisper into their little ear?
Well, I'd like to tell you that we're so excited you're here or about to be here in these hallowed, glorious jungles of time and space. You are in for one heck of an adventure that is unlimited, where anything can happen and you get to decide what that anything is. Listen to your mommies and listen to your daddies. Let them be your best friends. They have your your greatest interest in mind. They love you even before they know you, and prepare to be astounded every single day of your life.
Oh, so beautiful. And if you don't mind, Mike, can I close with the last words of your Dreams Come True book?
I'd be honored and thrilled. And this whole experience with you, Jay, has been an honor. Thanks for doing what you do.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's been a pleasure talking with you. The very last page of the very first book, the Dreams Come True, it says, if all of the people in all of the world could turn their worries into laughter, then all of the people in all of the world would live happily ever after. And that is a very nice sentiment to close a book and get to bedtime. And now it's time to go to sleep, Nico. So, thank you again, Mike. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Okay, thank you, Jay, and happy trails to you, your listeners, your little one there, and all else.
Hi, it's Dr. J again, and I want to thank you so much for listening to the podcast. It's something I really enjoy doing, and I, as a parent, learn a ton from these experts coming on and sharing their wisdom, so I hope you're getting a lot out of it too. And I want to share something else with you. I've created a guide called the 40 Ways to Connect with Your Baby During Pregnancy. It's full of simple things you can do on a day-to-day basis that will help strengthen that bond that you have with your baby. It's a free download. You can go to my website at drjwarren.com/40ways and just enter your email. I'll send it right to you. You can download it and start working on it right away. All of the research that I'm learning in the fields of epigenetics and attachment parenting is showing that the more bonded you are during your pregnancy with your baby, the better the birth is going to go and the better parenting is going to go, because you have that strong foundation, a strong connection to build upon. So go again to my website. It's drjwarren.com/40ways and get that free guide. And again, thanks for listening.